actually.
25 years, and I know you're living in the area now, and you're sort of stuck
Yeah.
here. This is the only gig you might get for a while.
Yeah.
Because what reason I was thinking about you was I did see you perform at the Beach Hotel last night, and tell us
Yeah.
about that. I know that you kind of made a comment that you felt a bit rusty. You haven't performed in a while. What's
It's
it
been
like?
4 months since I've done a show. Yeah, I was very rusty. I've never, before COVID, I'd never gone, I don't know, more than a week without a show, really.
So
So 4 months was quite a break, yeah.
was it a tough 4 months then?
Not really.
No?
No.
Ready for retirement anyway.
Yeah, well, I don't know. If I'd been young and if I was young and I had a mortgage, I'd probably be worried, but I'm old and I live in a rented shed.
Old Greg.
Yeah. I
So-
live in a rented shed in Mullumbimby. I'm celibate. I've given up on life.
Yeah.
So there's no one to,
So not every stand-up comedian ends up like Dave Hughes or Will Anderson or...
No. Well, you know how people say that they experiment with drugs? Yeah. For an experiment to be actually a proper experiment, there has to be a control group.
Right.
And very luckily, I started taking drugs just when Dave Hughes stopped taking drugs. So Dave was my control. I stayed on Dave's floor 20 odd years ago.
Really?
I've known Dave for a very long time. I was good mates with his housemate. And Dave is very wealthy and very famous.
And I mean, no doubt you could have gone down the same path. Like, what was the resistance to sort of maybe selling out? Well, I mean, you had a very successful commercial radio career. Let's talk about that. You're Triple M's Brekkie host for a number of years. That's like pretty much top of the line as far as the entertainment industry goes.
Yeah. Well, I did breakfast radio. So breakfast radio is is one of the better paying gigs a comedian can get. But I was in Brisbane. So Brisbane, you're only ever going to make, I don't know, maybe a fifth or a quarter of what people make in Sydney or Melbourne. So like there was a time when I was making good money. I should have money.
Right.
Dan, but drugs don't buy themselves. So I have no money. But, I'm alive and I'm happy and I live in a beautiful spot and my kids are great.
So the sort of stoner comedian, that was sort of kind of your wheelhouse. When I think the first time I saw you was like performing in Byron, you came down from Brisbane for a gig. It was like 15 years ago.
Yeah.
And that was sort of, a lot of your material was based around.
Yeah, I did. I did a lot of my first gigs in the Northern Rivers were sort of Mardi Gras, doing shows with S. Sorensen around the place, and with John Atherton doing shows out at Corndale Hall, which were great. A lot of very happy memories. Apparently, if I could remember them. Do you feel like it's a bit of a lonely existence being a stand-up comedian? Like there are the other, it's sort of a very solo pursuit, isn't it? It's sort of... like if you're doing a lot of club gigs, like when I was living in Brisbane and I was doing a lot of club shows, my social life pretty much was just doing shows and maybe hanging out with the other comics. So I've got most of my friends are comedians. This COVID thing's really, it's hurt my social life quite a lot.
Well, because I often say the stand-up comedian is kind of like the sad clown kind of thing. Like you go on stage and you make people laugh, but behind the scenes there's a lot of inner turmoil. Is that sort of...
Yeah, that was the case for me for a long time. I'm pretty jovial these days, but it's taken a long time to get to that place. Yeah, I was a very miserable person for a long time.
But did that help with the writing? That sort of angst?
Yeah, I guess so. Like, if you've got a racing mind, you might as well do something with it.
Yeah.
So, you know, if you're obsessively thinking about jokes, you get good at writing jokes.
Because a lot of stuff last night there was some pretty dark stuff, talking about depression and suicide and stuff
Yeah.
like that. And you know, you can, you know, you do not mind the fact that some audience members are going to turn against you in that? Does that bother you?
No, fuck them.
Yeah.
No, I look. You can. Yeah, I write about what I know, you know, and I was suicidally depressed off and on for a very long time, and I talk about it because I'm not anymore, and I haven't been for quite a while, and you know, I want people to know. Like, you know, a lot of people feel, well, I feel a bit shit, I'll go and see a comedy show, you know. So I'd like to get the message out that, you know, that if you do feel very, very depressed or suicidal,
Go to a comedy show.
well, actually, go and get help. I went to a psychiatrist for a long time. I had a pretty grim childhood. I was a lot of sexual assault and abuse in my childhood. I say a lot. It doesn't take a lot. It doesn't take much to mess with your head. So that took a long time to sort through, you know, and then, yeah, so because I was miserable from that, you know, I did a lot of sort of very self-destructive stuff for a very long time. But, you know, I've also been very lucky. I've travelled around. I've done shows in Hollywood. I've done shows in Hong Kong and, you know, lots of different places. I've gotten to meet and make fun of 4 separate prime ministers to their face.
Really?
Which is, yeah.
Which was your favourite?
To make fun of.
Or to see their face in front of you? Or yeah,
The best
to make
ones,
fun of.
the best ones to make fun of were Howard and Rudd because they had distinctive voices that
Can
I
you
could.
do a little version for us before we go to our music act? Impressions.
Yeah, but Abbott was very weird. Julia Gillard, I thought was a bit sexy in real life, to be honest. Yeah.
Probably our sexiest prime minister, which isn't hard to do.
Yeah. Well, if you're a heterosexual man, yes, she's probably very high on the list of prime
That's
ministers.
impressive. Not many people can say they've met 4 prime ministers.
No. And yeah, I've met some rock stars and stuff. Like I'm sure all of these folk here, who all the crew from Byron Events, I'm sure they've seen plenty of famous people and
they're all
been treated
nodding
poorly by them. Famous people tend to be cunts, don't they? No, they're just people like everyone else. Some of them are great, some of them not so good. But yeah, it's yeah. You know, everyone's.
It's all about raw honesty here in the Walling Bar. That's what we like.
Yeah. Everyone's life is, you know, there's suffering in every life. You know, I talk about mine because it's funny. It's like it's terribly painful and sad for me, but it's funny for everyone else because it's not them.
Yeah, well, it's quite dark in the Walling Bar tonight. I'm not sure if that's just the mood or the lighting, but